So let's get right into it. We're about to break down a system that can help you remember pretty much everything you read, study, or learn. And this isn't just for, med students or researchers. It works for anyone trying to get through a business book or just learn something new.
But hold on a second. Before we do that, we have to ask a way more important question. Is remembering everything you read even possible? And maybe more to the point, should that even be your goal? Well, here's the secret. It absolutely shouldn't be. And we know this because of a man who actually could.
To really get why perfect memory isn't what we should be aiming for, we have to kind of bust the myth wide open. Understanding its limits is the real key to learning in a way that actually works.
I want you to meet Kim Peek. He was the real-life inspiration for the movie Rain Man, and his memory was something else entirely. He could read a book just once and then recite it back to you word for word. We're talking thousands of books, not to mention maps, dates, you name it.
But here's the incredible twist. For all that superhuman ability, Kim Peek really struggled with reasoning and with complex problem solving. His brain was like the world's most perfect hard drive. It could store anything, but it wasn't a processor. And this is where you see the huge gap between just recalling information and truly understanding it.
So let's imagine you and Kim Peek are taking the same exam. Who wins? Well, it depends. If it's a test of pure memorization, just spitting back facts and dates, he would crush it, no question. But if that exam asks you to use logic to apply concepts to new problems, you would actually have the advantage.
And that, right there, shows us the real problem most of us face. It isn't our faulty memory. It's that we're laser-focused on the wrong thing. The real problem is that we are all over-consuming information.
Think about learning like it has two parts. First, there's consumption. That's all the stuff coming into your brain, the books, the videos, the podcasts. But then there's the second part, digestion. That's the process of making the information stick and making it useful. Most of us are obsessed with consumption, but we almost completely neglect digestion.
And what happens when we do that? The result is pretty shocking. Some research suggests we forget up to 90% of the information we take in. 90%! All that time you spend reading and watching, poof, it's basically gone because we never took a minute to actually digest it.
This leads to a really powerful analogy. It's a little graphic, but it's spot on. Constantly consuming without digesting is the learning equivalent of overeating. You just keep cramming more and more in, but your system can't handle it. And you end up with what the source calls mental vomiting, which, for us, just feels like forgetting.
All right, so here's our game plan. We've talked about the myth of perfect memory and the real enemy, which is over-consuming. Now we're going to dive into the solution, a framework called PACER. We'll look at how to categorize what you read, what to do with all the details, and then we'll wrap up with a totally new learning mindset.
And that brings us to the hero of our story, the PACER framework. This is a system that's literally designed to force us into that crucial digestion phase. It's all about figuring out what kind of information you're looking at so you can use the right tool to make it stick.
So, PACER is an acronym. It stands for 5 different kinds of information: procedural, analogous, conceptual, evidence, and reference. And here's the big idea. Each of these categories needs a totally different digestion process. If you use the wrong one, you're just being inefficient, and that's why we forget.
Let's start with the first 3 categories, which are kind of the heavy hitters: procedural, analogous, and conceptual. Honestly, these are the ones that take the most work to get right.
First up, P is for procedural. This is your how-to stuff. Think a recipe, a tutorial on how to code, or even steps for a medical procedure. The only way to digest this information is to practice it. The moment you read it, you have to try it. Don't sit there trying to memorize the steps. Just go do them.
Next, A stands for analogous. This is any new information that immediately makes you think of something you already know. Your brain just loves making these connections. But here's the key. Don't just stop at the connection. You have to critique it. Ask yourself, okay, how is this new idea similar to what I know? But also, how is it different? Where does this analogy fall apart? That critical step is what locks in the new knowledge. And C is for conceptual. This is the big what and why information, the theories and principles that are the real backbone of a subject. The way to digest this is through mapping. Like mind maps or flowcharts. You've got to pull this information out of those straight lines of text and build it into a visual network. And here's why mapping is so incredibly powerful.
An expert's brain isn't like a book, right? It's not linear. It's this incredible, highly connected web of ideas. So as a learner, your job isn't to just memorize sentences. Your job is to try and recreate that expert's mental network. Mapping forces you to see how everything connects and build that big picture for yourself.
Okay, so we've done the heavy lifting with P, A, and C. The good news is, the last two categories are much faster to deal with. These are evidence and reference.
The trick here is just telling the difference between E for evidence and R for reference. Evidence is stuff like stats or case studies. Its job is to make a big concept feel real and concrete. You digest it by using it maybe to solve a problem or back up a point in an essay. Reference, on the other hand, is just those little nitty-gritty details, a specific name, a date, a chemical symbol. For that stuff, you just need direct recall, and that's where things like flashcards and spaced repetition are your best friends.
So when you put this all together, what you have is more than just a new technique. It's a complete shift in your mindset about learning. It's about consciously moving from being a passive consumer to an active digester of information.
At the end of the day, it all boils down to this one simple, powerful idea. You have to stop caring so much about how much you can cram into your brain. The real goal is to focus on what actually stays in your brain. True knowledge isn't about volume, it's about being able to hold on to it and actually use it.
And that really leaves us with one final question. For you, take a look at your own learning habits. What are you just passively consuming day after day without ever really processing it? What will you stop reading or watching today to make room to finally start digesting what you've already learned?